Wes Streeting says that grooming gang rhetoric risks inciting mass violence. And then, to find an example, he goes to the other side of the world, New Zealand, and finds one horrible incident where one white madman killed 50 Muslims in a mosque. If you have to go round the whole world to find an example of the ill you're talking about, then it's not that common, is it? Right, I'm Granniopteryx and I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. Oh, just before I carry on, you may have noticed you're not seeing things. I am on the other side of the screen. I thought maybe this would be better because that way I'm looking at the right thing. My head is pointing in the right direction. Let's see how that works. If anyone has any problem with that for any reason, let me know. Okay, the use of inflammatory language over grooming gangs risks vilifying entire communities and could lead to atrocities such as the mosque massacre in New Zealand that killed more than 50 people, the Health Secretary has warned. So be very, very careful about what you say, because somebody on the other side of the world might go mad with a gun, like we go mad with guns here in Britain every day of the week, don't we? And then he does what every average hypocrite does. He says, statement A, and then goes, but, which negates everything in statement A, and then goes on to statement B. But the thing is, because he said statement A, he feels like he's done the right thing. So he has no difficulty or qualms calling out the sickening crimes of sexual abuse gangs, criticising well-meaning but ultimately fundamentally misguided and warped views of political correctness for letting down thousands of children. At the same time, which is but in 3 more words, there are people in my community. What community is that? Let's see. What community is he talking about? I don't know what. Catholics? White people? Men? I don't know. Do you mean your constituents, Mr. Streeting? I think that's what you mean, isn't it? Right. There are people in my constituency who have either Pakistani heritage or look different, who are now more fearful today than they were before. Well, I'm sorry, but if you go through the pages of Tell Mama, which is a sort of complaint site for Muslims, you'll see they're complaining about somebody just looking sideways at them. There is a feeling abroad among Pakistani communities that everybody is out to get them. Do you know about the scar experiment? Some people were told that they were taking part in an experiment to see how having a facial disfigurement ruined your job prospects. So an artificial scar was put on their face, and then they were sent for a job interview. It was all a setup. They were shown the scar, which was pretty impressive, in a mirror while the makeup was being put on. And then when they were just about to go in for the interview, or, very close to it, somebody would say, oh, hang on a minute, it's coming loose. Here, just a minute, I'll fix that. And they took the scar off. And then the person went into the interview thinking, there was men and women, thinking that they had a scar on their face. And they didn't. And when they came out, they had to make a report on how the people looked at them. And to a man or woman, they all said, people were looking at them funny. They were staring at that side of their face all the time. And that sort of thing. They really had the feeling that so you get this positive feedback loop, don't you? You've got a scar, at least you think you have a scar. People are looking at you. You think they're looking funny. So you start acting defensive. And then the people see you're acting defensive and they might react to that. And then you act more defensive. Well, you get the picture. Unlike those people who didn't get the picture because that was a secret from them. Anyway, so the fact that many Muslims might be feeling a little defensive right now is perfectly natural. But the fact that they may perceive in other people aggression that isn't there is also perfectly natural. The government has rejected calls from the billionaire ex-owner. Right. This is a report in The Guardian, so I love doing this sort of thing because looking at The Guardian language is, it's like a great big juicy steak. Actually, I don't eat steak, but there you are. Okay. Right, the government has rejected calls from the now billionaire ex-owner. So, yeah, just make sure that you've got this rich man envy thing going. And right-wing politicians. Right-wing politicians, yeah? Like me, for instance. I mean, again, they just... labels. One thing about this newspaper is labels. They like labelling people. A billionaire ex-owner, so you don't listen to him. Right-wing politicians, so you don't listen to her or whoever. For a national inquiry into grooming gangs, although some Labour figures, including the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham, have suggested there should be one with limited scope. Why the hell limited scope? You have a large scale crime going on, and I'm not talking about the people who did the raping and the enslaving and the murdering. I'm talking about the people who covered it up. And I suppose, I don't know what he means by limited scope, but I reckon it means they will look into the criminals who did the actual crime, but limit it to that rather than to the people who facilitated them. And if you look at any piece of work out on the internet by Raja Maya, who was involved in in uncovering the Oldham stuff, you will see that this facilitating went through the Labour Party in particular, from bottom to top, and the police forces as well. Okay, but and I suggest, I'm just guessing here, of course, that limited scope would, erase that bit of the inquiry. Keir Starmer and his ministers have said they're open-minded about holding one in future. Yeah, when the fuss has died down, maybe? Jam tomorrow. Yeah, you know that one about, some of you may not be familiar with Alice in Wonderland. Well, this was Alice Through the Looking Glass. And Alice was being offered a job by the Red Queen, and the Queen gave terms of employment, and one of them was jam tomorrow. And Alice said, well, does that mean tomorrow I'm going to get jam? So the Queen said, well, not exactly, because when tomorrow is today, then the jam is coming tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Well, that's what this holding one in future reminds me of. The Prime Minister. Do you know the fact that we can say Prime Minister and Keir Starmer in the same breath actually makes me feel queasy. The Prime Minister has accused the Conservatives of jumping on the bandwagon. So, unearthing a crime, yeah, that's not important. It's just, look, they're the opposition. Now, when they were in power, then that's when Keir Starmer should have been jumping on that bandwagon, because that is what the opposition is for. Now, the Conservatives didn't do their job while in power, but at least they are doing some of their job as opposition. That's what democracy is all about. Something that Keir Starmer doesn't seem to be able to grasp particularly well. I don't know what it is, but somehow Keir Starmer doesn't appear to understand democracy. Now, isn't that a strange thing? OK. Right, and it's true, the Conservatives did fail to act during 14 years in power. I have already gone into why I think they didn't act. But they are acting now. And Starmer should understand that as the opposition, that's their job. In his interview, Streeting, who has been among those at the forefront of the government's response to Musk, Reform UK's Nigel Farage and the Conservatives went further. Victims' voices have been completely marginalised, he said. And by whom? And I think that's a disgrace, he said. If Kemi Badenoch is in any doubt whatsoever about where irresponsible and coarse public discourse can lead on this issue, look on the other side of the world in Christchurch, New Zealand. So he has to go, and they keep pushing this. One incident from the other side of the world doth not a massacre make here in this country. We have to be extremely clear. When any politician says that he wants to be extremely clear, you can be absolutely certain that he's talking about putting a blindfold over your eyes. We have to be extremely clear about the failings, the nature of it, and not allow political correctness, fear of stating the truth as it is to fail victims. As has happened before, we must also make sure that entire communities are not tarred with the same brush. Let's start talking about Islamophobia, should we? Because that's what's really important. There is a cultural propensity in Pakistani society to rape. And I'm quoting Raja Maya here. Sorry, I just had a phone call. Right. I don't even remember where I was. Oh, yes. I was going to quote Raja Maya about the cultural aspects of rape in Pakistani society. Here, let's just play this 2-minute clip, if I can get it going. Here we are. Right.
Rape genocide is a proven tactic of the Pakistani regime against the Bangladeshis in the 70s. Rape genocide is a matter of fact. It's a strategy used in Pakistan. It is culturally embedded in the psyche of that nation that their men were sent out to go and try and breed, infect the breed of another race and commit genocide. Matter of fact, The Guardian reported it. I put a link up of a Guardian article from a few years ago. The Guardian reported, was it between 300 and 400,000, and those are conservative estimates, women who were repeatedly gang raped, girls as young as 9 taken to camps. This is a matter of fact. This is a strategy used by Pakistan. It is in their culture.
Does that sound familiar to anyone? Now, obviously, Raja Maya is of Pakistani origin. And he is equally obviously, not subject to that sort of behaviour. So this is not an entire Pakistani thing. But it is a recognised part of Pakistani culture, and we have to remember that it's there. However, the government has another way of dealing with it. Whatever you do, don't talk about Islamophobia. Whatever you do, don't mention the Islam. And then the Guardian goes into a minute description of the Christchurch massacre. That has absolutely nothing to do with the revelations that are coming out now. But that's all that the Guardian has, so it's pumping it as much as it can. In the interview, Streeting suggested there was a major struggle ahead for the future of technology, which was currently concentrated in the hands of a few tech. So now let's not talk about murdered kids or assaulted kids or raped kids. No, let's talk about the internet. They're saying things that Wes Streeting doesn't like. As with any revolution, the key thing is that power, wealth and opportunity is in the hands of the many, not the privileged few. I don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means. I think technology can have a liberating role, he said. Well, so long as you're in charge of it, yeah? We've got to make sure that technology is harnessed for the common good, and we've got to make sure that it's governed by democratic principles. There's going to be a big global battle over this over the course of this century as to whether it's democracy or tyranny. I wonder if he realises that tyranny is when people close the internet down and declare certain subjects taboo. And democracy is where people can discuss anything. I don't think he's quite cottoned on to that yet. While he stopped short of describing the billionaire ex-owner as a tyrant, this is The Guardian. So what they're saying is that Elon Musk is a tyrant. He said, there's still a big challenge for big tech to be democratising. I think it's as democratised as it could ever possibly be. And if you notice, Elon Musk has put these community notes out, and now Facebook is doing the same thing under, influence of what happened in X, Twitter as it was. Twitter had a bunch of community notes people, or what do they call it, trust and safety or whatever, and they were just removing stuff that they didn't like. When Musk came in, he let people put what they liked, and then there's notes underneath that either contradict or elucidate. And now Facebook is doing the same thing. What a coincidence. And that is democratising. Not some guy in the EU. I want to show you something. Where is it? Just a minute. Here we are. This is what happens if you try and access a Rumble page in France. Notice to users in France, because of French government demands to remove creators from our platform, Rumble is currently unavailable in France. We are challenging these government demands and hope to restore access soon. That's because in France, where l'État c'est moi, and moi in this case being Macron probably, they're telling people what they can put up on Rumble. And so Rumble they're not putting anything up on in France. That was anti-democratic. We've given way too much airtime to one tech titan who lives in a... Well, you do it yourself. If you think you can do better, then start up an X clone, something that you think is more democratic than what's going on X. Go on, do that. Yeah? No? Oh no, you're too busy telling white people that they should keep their mouths closed for the sake of diversity, yeah? The Home Office Homeland Security Group is monitoring social media posts by Musk and others as a possible national security risk. So when Elon Musk says that the whole government is complicit, the whole Labour government is complicit in the grooming gang scandal, the rape gang scandal, then that's a national security risk, is it? Streeting is one of the many Labour figures who's been grappling with how to deal with the rise of populism. Of course, populism is very bad, isn't it? With Reform UK soaring in the polls, and what a surprise that is, and a battle for the political right between Nigel Farage's party and the Conservatives. No, it's not a battle for the political right. It's a battle for human rights, citizens' rights, freedom of speech. That's what it's a battle for. Now, this is The Guardian, I keep saying, don't I? I mean, that should answer everything. What we have a responsibility to do is deliver real change. Oh, yeah, like the real change in the way that the government, Keir Starmer and Mrs. Balls dealt with the Southport massacre. Yeah. Oh, talking about massacres, did you know that there was a massacre by a single white nutter on the other side of the world in New Zealand? Yeah, well, I thought I couldn't mention the fact that some Muslim had gone into a kindergarten full of 5-year-olds and killed 3 of them and tried to kill a lot more, without mentioning that somebody on the other side of the world took a gun and killed an awful lot of perfectly unexceptional Muslims who were there to pray one day. Yeah, but I have to mention that. Well, whatever happens here, David Amis might be knifed by somebody who pretended to be a constituent. People blew up buses in Russell Square and in tube carriages. And some guy went mad with a knife in some park and killed 3 gay men. And then some other guy went mad with a knife in a kindergarten. Oh, but remember, something happened in New Zealand the other way round. And I have to keep things fair, haven't I? Streeting tipped as a potential future Labour leader. Oh dear, this is like, if Starmer is Ronald McDonald, Wes Streeting is one of the burger flippers, but he is tipped as a potential future Labour leader. Defended Starmer, whose popularity ratings are currently at near record lows. Predicting the Prime Minister would 100% take the party into the next election. Yeah, all right. That man is constantly underestimated. Of course, unpopular decisions are unpopular. He's taking unpopular decisions because he thinks they're the right decisions for the country. So he's taking unpopular decisions because he doesn't listen to people. He is definitely not a listener. If we change Britain for the better, people will thank him for it. Yeah, well, we would if he did, but he won't. Well, yeah, that's Wes Streeting on freedom of speech. If you feel like criticising the Pakistani grooming gangs, rape gangs, whatever you're going to call them, then you have to remember the New Zealand mosque and keep very, very quiet. Till next time, you can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.